My name is Dylan Spake, and this is my Linguistic Odyssey. My mom and dad, who are both white, middle class, non practicing Christians, are from North Carolina. They met while they were in school at Appalachian State University. Until that time, my mom had never left North Carolina, and my father, who had been somewhat transient in his life, at 26 decided to go back to school. After they got married, they moved back to Lexington, where my mom is from, to be closer to family. I was born not long after and was quickly followed by three more younger brothers. Growing up, it was clear that my father did not have an accent like most of the other people in my family, and my mom did not seem to have much of one either. It was important to them not to sound too southern because they felt that it made others look down on them. This was also bestowed on my brothers and I. We were constantly corrected on certain words, told that we needed to sound educated, and that improper grammar, something prevalent in our area, was unacceptable. Our parents worked very hard to raise us in a way that did not show our rural roots. We were taught to work hard and to never give up on ourselves or our goals in life. And these are pictures of my family. My brother that's closest in age to me, his name is Gavin, and then we have twin younger brothers, Job and Garrett. And my mom's name is Mary and my father's name is Carl. This is a slide of where we're from. We're from Lexington, North Carolina. We live in a very rural community right outside of Lexington called Reeds. And it's pretty much a one-stoplight town, so extremely rural. Languages and dialects. I'm a solid English speaker. As a child, mostly when I was not around my parents, I had a Southern accent and used a lot of Southern slang. This would be considered Southern American English. As an adult, I have lost most of my Southern accent simply due to a variety of places I have lived, especially having been in the Navy for 8 years. I'm married to a man from the Midwest, so he likes to point out every time I code switch when we're out in town and I sound a little too Southern. The picture at the top of the page is me on my third and final deployment, launching an MV-22 Osprey off the flight deck of the USS New York. And I thought it would be cool to kind of show my Navy side a little bit here. I also want to show a clip of a family barbecue that we had. It's a very old clip. It's from probably around 2010. It mainly shows the interaction between my mother, who is the blonde, and my aunt, who is the brunette. And it's probably one of the last videos. It's definitely the last video I have of my grandfather before he passed away in 2012. So here it is.
I did not have time to wrap, so if you want to throw the green stuff back into the Ziploc bag, you may. That's for me and Carl. That's for me and Carl.
Oh, I love that.
Well, it's tip. If you don't care,
No, I don't care. I can't see. I don't have my glasses on. I love my wind chime.
I know, that's from World Market as well.
So my mom doesn't generally sound very Southern, but whenever she's around her sister, she sounds extremely Southern. So I thought it would be fun to show that. My language and upbringing. As a child growing up in the South, I was predisposed to a very heavy Southern accent. However, my parents did not want us to sound illiterate. I remember my mom saying things along the lines of, "We may live in the country, but we don't have to sound country." It was expected that in their house and around them that we would not sound like we were from the area we were being raised in, which is known for a very thick, strong Southern accent. Childhood memories. I actually have some childhood memories, but mostly they revolve around my mom and dad saying about the way we spoke and the area that we lived. I didn't really start noticing that I sounded different from my area until I was a teenager. I remember people asking me where I was from in my own hometown. And when I went to college for the first time at Marsh University, I remember people telling me that they liked my accent. I didn't realize that I had an accent at that point. I thought I sounded like everybody else, but I definitely had one. Language in the neighborhood. In my neighborhood, in the area I primarily live in, everyone spoke English. It was very rare to meet anyone in my area where English was not their first language. And in these pictures, this shows the house that I was raised in and the neighborhood that I was raised, which is one of the only real neighborhoods in my area. And a lot of my friends actually lived in this neighborhood. So this is where I pretty much grew up and really learned how to be a kid and a young adult. Language use in my family. In my family, language is used as a sign of good social standing within our community. It was also used for expression. My mom and dad instilled within us very early on a love for poetry and movies. My favorite book growing up, and a book that helped me most learning to read growing up, was Falling Up. I loved to write poetry as a child and would write constantly. Sadly, my poetry has been lost to time. My brothers mostly went in a different direction, and my younger brothers both are into movies and they write screenplays and are constantly making movies. I added a picture of the poem Falling Up, which was a huge favorite of mine, but I also added a photo of my brother Garrett at a film festival at the University of North Carolina at Wilmington. He was presenting a presentation on Frankenstein, and he graduated from there with a film degree and later got his master's from the North Carolina School of the Arts in film as well. Other languages. I admittedly only took Spanish while I was in high school, and I never looked into learning another language. And even whenever I learned Spanish, I wasn't really learning Spanish. It's one of my greatest regrets that I did not learn another language. And as I get older, I'm not sure that I will ever really commit to learning one. Speaking and writing. I speak a lot like I write. I have several learning disabilities, which I struggled with for most of the beginning of my life. The one thing I was really good at was writing poetry. So I had a teacher suggest that I write as if I were writing poetry, and from there my abilities expanded. Now when I write, I try my hardest to write like I speak. I guess I should thank my parents for being so determined that we spoke proper English and shed some of the bad grammatical habits from the area we were raised. My language and my identity. This is a very complex question for me. As someone that has lost my accent, something that I really identified with in my youth, this is a question that I've not given much thought to. I'm very proud of my language, though, and my lack of an accent. Instead of looking at it from a place of loss, I look at it as a culmination of my years of experience in a life well lived. While most people I know never left Lexington, I did, and I have a newfound accent to show for it. One that is a mix of everywhere I have lived and the various people and cultures I have interacted with. I have visited several countries and lived in a few different states, and if I have nothing else to show for it, I do have my accent. When people at home ask me where I'm from, I do not simply say, I'm from here. Now I say, I'm from here, but I joined the Navy and I traveled the world. I moved around to several states and ended up back here, sounding a little different with a changed perspective on life. These pictures are just a couple pictures that I took while I was in the Navy. It doesn't even really touch on everything, but the top left picture is a picture of me and my husband at Fleet Week. The picture beside of it is a picture of us pulling into Seychelles in Africa on my first deployment. The bottom left picture is from my third deployment. We went to Israel and we were able to visit Jerusalem, which is an experience that I will never forget. It was so beautiful. And the final picture, bottom right, is a picture of Sunset Safari in Abu Dhabi in the Middle East on my first deployment. Changes in speech. I actually do alter my speech quite a bit in the right context. Depending on where I am and who I am talking to, my southern accent does come out quite a bit. It is usually when I'm speaking to someone older than myself and I am looking for a genuine connection. And in order to form that connection, I have found that it is important to change the way that I sound so I don't sound like an outsider. That's the end of my Linguistic Odyssey, and I am so thankful that you guys took the time to hear my Linguistic Odyssey, and I can't wait to hear yours. Thank you.